Right now, I am joined by Mark Berger on a video conference call, and I'm so excited to have him join us. He will be joining us here at the library on Sunday, February 11th at 3 o'clock. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so glad were able to make this work.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a trick, but we did it, huh?
That's right, the wonders of technology. So,
Truly.
I am so excited that you're coming to the library. I couldn't be more thrilled to have you come and visit us. I know you do a lot of traveling, so have you been in Boston recently?
No, last time I played in your area was in the summer.
Okay.
Played some outdoor concerts, but this is my first time back since then.
No, that's great. Your music really reminds me of the road and the open spaces. I'm from Colorado myself originally, and I just can just picture kind of driving across the eastern plains, watching the tumbleweed and the big open sky. It took me away listening to it. So
awesome, man! Thank you. Where in Colorado are you from?
I got roots in Denver. So have you spent a lot of time out that way, or?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
I just got booked to play at the Tabor Opera House in Leadville.
Wow,
today.
That is a classic joint.
Yeah. So no, I love playing in Colorado. I've been there 3 times in the last year and a half. And
nice.
As you can tell from my record, I kind of like the Rockies and the Desert West for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So have you done residencies? Do you mostly tour when you're out there? Tell us about the inspiration process. How did this take root? Have you always been playing Western music, or is this a more relatively new passion?
Well, I don't know what Western music even is. I took a trip out west. I grew up in Philadelphia and New York. I took a trip out west on a lark with a crazy friend of mine when I was 21, just before I started law school.
Yeah.
We decided to hit the road, see America, chase girls across the country, and have a summer adventure. Yeah, I'm very unprepared for the effect that trip was going to have on my life. But it really, it just, and I've said many times, if I had grown up there, I would have never made this album. It's because it was so different to me.
Yeah.
The otherness of it was a big factor in what inspired me. And when I got back to New York, I immediately recognized that my life had changed, because all I wanted to do was get back out there. And so the next 5 summers, I drove across the United States alone to some destination in the American West during my 20s. Oh. And that was before there were cell phones. So those drives were just really unique, and you couldn't have those experiences today anymore.
You have to get off the interstate, I think. I find when I do that, you have to get off of 70 or 80, however you're going across, and take the smaller roads.
Well, you have to stay on the interstate until you get to Chicago, because the population is just too thick.
Yeah.
But after you get to Chicago, then you can shoot up and get onto the 2-lane blacktop roads that the interstates replaced, like Route 2 that goes from Duluth, Minnesota to Glacier National Park. And that's when the ride would get interesting. You're 100% right. It's all about getting to where the environment comes up to the car and slowing down to 30 when you hit the little towns that get further and further apart as you head west.
Yeah. Do you? I assume with all your traveling in there, you must have met quite a few characters, and the landscape is gorgeous. It's a different culture too, and I think that's infused in the music and in the way things are expressed. Do you think that's true?
Totally, 100%.
Yeah.
But you can find some characters in New York City too.
Are you working on anything new right now?
Oh, I'm in the throes of it. Yeah, I'm like, just to digress for a second, it took a long time to make Ride, because I wasn't a studio engineer. I could write the song, I could arrange the song, but I didn't know how to turn the knobs to create cinematic recordings, and I didn't know how to explain it to an engineer to have him help me do it. Mm-hmm. So it took a lot of years with me and my co-producer, trial and error, learning how to use equipment in the recording studio to create the effect of Ride. And it came out, and we had no idea if anybody would like it. It would just be like, wow, what did we just spend 10 years doing, And it was very well received, and it's been a pleasure. The effect it's had on my life, that release of that album. But I constantly am being, I get the comment, well, everybody likes Ride, so obviously now you got to make Son of Ride. But the truth of the matter is, I don't really have anything more to say on that subject, and consequently, if I try to make Son of Ride, it would not be as good as Ride. But one of the things I found really enjoyable about making that album was that instead of creating an album and just going, well, here are 10 of my songs, the idea of having an overarching concept that linked all the songs and took you on kind of a journey as you listened to the record was very artistically challenging and fulfilling. And so, while I don't want to make fun of Ride, I do have a concept that's interested me for a very long time that's become the basis of this new album I'm working on, which has to do with the question, what do these two words mean? Folk music.
Mm.
And so this is going to be a genre-bending look at what is folk music, or my own spin on it, that is pretty guaranteed to piss everybody off.
As the best folk music always has.
For me, the idea of what is folk music really is very much tied up with the idea of what it means to be an American artist. Mm-hmm. And the definition of an American artist for me is traceable back to the prose prologue of the first edition of Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman, where he talks about, in prose, he talks about who and what the American poet is. He's referring to the American poet, but it doesn't matter. And he talks about basically for the first time what an American artist looks like, as opposed to somebody who is following a European model because it was a new country, you know. And he says things like, it is the attitude of the greatest poet to horrify despots and cheer up slaves. And for me, that's where I'm coming from, and that's the essence of what there's a lot more that he says in that prose prologue. And reading it from where we're sitting in 2018 is really an eye-opening experience. It's a breathtaking thing to read. It's prose, and it appears before the very first word of the very first poem in the first edition of Leaves of Grass. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it doesn't matter if it's a guy with an acoustic guitar or somebody shredding your forehead, you know, with a Marshall. It really is more about the nature of the communication and what it's saying, and rather than the medium. And so this would be a very eclectic record. And some of the songs will have horn sections, and some of them will sound as crazy as anything the Doors ever did. And then there'll be a folk song that Richie Havens performed in his live concerts for 25 years. And so it's a very wide-ranging look at what could qualify as folk music. For me, it's definitely not, I'm so sensitive, I love my guitar.
You're not coming with your full band. You're coming just with one other person when you're able to come here to Quincy. You're going to be playing guitar, and tell us a little bit about who's going to be accompanying you.
There's a really fine upright bass player. His name is Marty Ballou, and I'm going to play guitar and harmonica.
Great.
And one of the challenges, because I play in so many different configurations, from solo to a 7-piece band, is how to distill that album down to even a solo performance, which I've kind of figured out how to do. And in some ways, it's very interesting because it's very intimate doing it that way. And so there's a duo performance of the album, me on guitar and harmonica and Marty Ballou on upright bass.
Well, that is super exciting. I'm sure we could spend the next hour easily talking about music and influences and different paths to follow, and I'd love to hear more about that path from Duluth to Glacier. That's some of my favorite corners of the world. That sounds just wonderful, but I think I have to wait.
We'll hang after the concert.
That sounds very good.
Okay.
Mark, is there anything else you would like people to know before they come out to see you on the 11th?
I guess the only other thing that we didn't cover is that when I do this concert at libraries, there's a fair amount of storytelling in between the songs about my experiences in the mountain and desert West and how they influenced the creation of these songs that'll be part of the concert.
I look forward so much to seeing everyone on Sunday, February 11th at 3 o'clock for his concert. See you then.